Ready to take your writing from hack to pro.
Sounds ambitious.
It is, but that's exactly what we're diving into today.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
We're dissecting advice from Dorian Scott Cole,
Oh yeah,
senior story analyst for the Writers Workshop in LA.
right, and he's worked on tons of projects, right?
Exactly, he's got years of experience seeing what works with audiences.
Both in Hollywood and for online content.
And one thing's for sure, he does not sugarcoat things.
No, he definitely doesn't. He's very upfront about how competitive the writing world is.
I mean, thousands of novels are uploaded every single day,
And only a tiny fraction of screenplays ever actually get made into movies. It's a little intimidating when you think about it.
It is. But you know what? He also emphasizes that being professional,
Yeah,
it's not about instant fame, right? Or becoming a bestseller on your first try.
it's really about the skills you develop, right?
Exactly.
That's something we can control, we can work on.
It's that commitment to always improving,
Yeah, and one of the first things Dorian dives into
Okay.
is audience expectations.
Which makes sense, because,
Different people want different things from their stories.
of course.
Some crave those familiar tropes, the ones.
Yeah, the comfortable.
Yeah, comforting and familiar.
Like that warm blanket on a cold night.
Exactly. While others want complex characters they can connect with on a deeper level.
Like really get inside their heads.
Yeah. And then there are those looking for something totally unique.
Something they've never seen before.
Yeah, something that completely blows their mind.
It makes you think, what kind of reader are you?
And as a writer, what kind of experience do you want to create for your audience?
That's a good question, yeah.
I think that's something we all need to consider.
I like how he breaks down those 4 levels of writing skill.
Oh yeah, that was interesting.
Like, where do you think you fall on that scale, honestly?
What?
Most of the time, I think I'm bouncing between
Uh,
conscious, incompetent, and then conscious, competent.
oh, I know exactly what you mean.
You understand there's a method to it all.
Right, there's a system.
But sometimes you just struggle to apply it consistently.
I think that's where a lot of us are, really.
Totally. Like, okay, I know a scene needs conflict
Yeah, got to keep things interesting.
to move the story forward, but creating that conflict.
In a way that feels natural.
Yeah, and engaging.
That's where I sometimes get stuck.
Mm-hmm. That's the conscious competence, right?
Oh yeah, you understand the principle, but you're actively working to master it.
It's a process.
And Dorian argues that consciously practicing can really help.
Okay, so what kind of practice are we talking about?
Well, things like crafting dialogue, making it snappy,
Mhm.
or building suspense, those really specific elements.
So rather than trying to be amazing at everything at once.
Right, just focus on one skill at a time.
Makes sense.
Yeah, much more manageable that way.
And honestly, I bet even seasoned pros, they probably still have areas
Oh, absolutely.
where they're consciously working on things, right?
Yeah, maybe they struggle with pacing or weaving in backstories seamlessly. We all have our weaknesses.
That's actually kind of reassuring to hear.
Right.
It means that even if you've been writing for years, there's always room for growth.
Exactly. It's a never-ending journey.
And Dorian's not saying you have to be perfect,
Right.
but that the commitment to ongoing learning,
Yeah, that desire to keep improving.
that's a hallmark of a professional.
Definitely. And one area he keeps coming back to
Okay.
is understanding what makes a story work.
It's more than just stringing words together, right?
So much more.
Yeah.
It's about creating an experience for the reader.
He keeps emphasizing this thing about character interaction,
Oh yeah, that's key.
especially when it's driven by motivation and conflict.
It's like the heart of his whole writing philosophy.
He even suggests looking at Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah, what I thought was interesting.
Yeah, to understand what drives characters.
Are they seeking love, security, belonging, self-actualization?
It's like those fundamental human needs.
Yeah, and they can create such powerful motivations.
So you're not just thinking about what a character does,
Mhm.
but why they do it.
Exactly. Their desires, fears, goals, all of that.
And then how those motivations clash with other characters.
That's where the conflict comes in.
That's what keeps people reading, right? That tension.
He's really hammering home this idea that conflict is the engine of a good story.
Yeah, I'm picking up on that.
And he argues that nearly every scene should contribute to that overall conflict in some way.
Okay, even if it's subtle?
Even subtle, yeah. He gives some interesting examples.
Oh, I'd love to hear one.
Well, you know how some writers can make those small, everyday interactions feel so significant?
Oh, yeah.
It's like those seemingly insignificant moments.
Mhm.
They subtly escalate the tension and foreshadow bigger conflicts to come.
Wow, that's fascinating. It's like those small moments plant seeds in the reader's mind.
And you don't even realize it's happening.
You're just engrossed in the story.
It makes you want to go back and look at your favorite books.
And see how those subtle conflicts are woven in.
It's amazing how much thought goes into crafting a truly compelling story, you know.
Yeah, it's not just about having a good idea.
It's about mastering all these different elements,
And weaving them together seamlessly.
which is where those actionable tips he provides, they become really valuable.
Yeah.
It's one thing to understand the theory.
Yeah, but putting it into practice.
That's the real challenge.
So what are some of his top tips for actually improving?
Well, he's got a whole list, of course, but one that really stuck with me
Okay.
was his emphasis on rewriting.
It's not just about fixing typos or
No, it's so much more than that.
refining the story.
Yeah, sharpening the prose, making sure every word is pulling its weight.
He calls it the secret weapon of all successful writers.
I love that. It
Yeah.
really is the key, you know.
It's a process, not a one-and-done deal. He actually walks us through a really interesting example.
Oh yeah, the before and after.
Right. The side-by-side comparison of a weak scene versus the professional version.
It's amazing to see the difference those subtle changes can make.
Well, let's break this down.
Okay, so the scene starts with this line. John sullenly looked at Elizabeth as she opened the door of the room to leave.
Okay, I mean, it's grammatically correct, but
It's kind of flat, right?
yeah, I don't get a sense of who these people are or what's at stake.
Exactly, it doesn't grab you.
It's just kind of there.
And then there's some basic dialogue. John's pleading with Elizabeth.
Uh-huh.
Elizabeth pushes past him, and then she's gone.
Poof. End scene.
Like watching paint dry, right?
Totally. But
Yeah.
then Dorian takes that same basic setup, and it's like he injects it with pure storytelling adrenaline.
He does. It's a complete transformation. We're suddenly not in a plain room anymore.
Oh.
We're at a bustling port with a stormy sky and the sound of a ship's horn in the background.
Ooh, that changes the mood immediately.
Right. And instead of John passively watching Elizabeth leave, he's chasing after her,
Okay.
desperately trying to stop her from boarding this ship.
So there's a sense of urgency now.
So much urgency.
Yeah, like, what's so important about her leaving?
That's what you want the reader to be thinking.
Yeah. It makes you lean in.
Exactly.
You want to know more.
So how does he transform the rest of the scene?
Well, instead of just telling us that John is upset, right?
Mhm.
We see his desperation through his actions, through his words, through his everything.
Yeah, it's like you're right there with him, you know.
We can feel the vibration of the metal ramp as he's running.
Oh yeah, those sensory details make it so vivid.
Like we're experiencing it firsthand.
It's not just the sensory details though, it's also how he uses the setting. The ship's horn becomes this symbol of impending separation,
Right, that looming deadline.
and the crowd of onlookers adds to that sense of chaos and pressure.
It's like even the background elements are part of the story now,
Everything is working together.
contributing to the tension.
Yeah, and then there's this final touch.
I love a good finishing touch.
John, he's heartbroken, right? Handcuffed.
Oh no.
He cries out, "Will I ever get a second chance?"
Oh, chills. It's just raw emotion.
Pure raw emotion.
Amazing how a few changes
Yeah.
can totally transform the scene.
It really is. It highlights the power of those small details
And the intentionality behind it.
that professional writers pay attention to.
I'm starting to get why he calls rewriting a secret weapon.
Me too.
Yeah.
It's like taking that rough stone and polishing it.
Until it shines.
Exactly. And what's really cool
Yeah.
is that he actually breaks down the techniques he used.
Oh, wow. So he's like
He's giving us a peek behind the curtain.
letting us in on the secret sauce.
Exactly. He talks about using a motif of darkness and storms.
Oh, to foreshadow the emotional turmoil?
Yeah, and choosing active verbs to create a sense of movement.
Keep the reader on the edge of their seat.
And even the ship's ramp and the horn, they become symbolic characters.
That's amazing. It's like he's revealing the hidden machinery of storytelling.
And the best part is, these are techniques that we can all learn.
Okay, I'm ready to take notes.
You don't have to copy his style, but you can understand the principles.
Right. Adapt them to your own work.
Exactly. Find your own unique way to use them.
I'm realizing that there's so much more to writing than I initially thought.
Oh, it's a deep rabbit hole.
It's not just about having a good idea.
No, it's about mastering all these different techniques.
It's a whole craft.
It really is. So what stood out to you the most from his analysis?
Tough question.
What really struck me
Okay.
was the power of showing versus telling.
Oh, yeah, he talks about that a lot.
In the original scene, we're told John is upset.
It's just stated as a fact.
But in the revised version, We see it.
It's in his actions, his words.
It's so much more powerful.
It makes the reader feel it.
Exactly, and it's something we could all work on in our own writing, right?
To show, not tell.
Yeah, it's easy to fall into that trap of just stating things.
But bringing those emotions to life, that's what makes the difference.
It's what separates good writing from great writing.
And I think it's important to remember that good writing is about more than just technical proficiency.
It's about connecting with the reader on an emotional level.
You want them to feel something.
Yeah, to really resonate with the story.
That's what makes a story memorable, isn't it?
Absolutely. So, any other nuggets of wisdom from Dorian that we should mention?
Let me think. He talks about the importance of understanding your audience, right?
Yes. And writing with them in mind.
It's crucial.
And he also emphasizes the need to develop your own unique voice.
That thing that makes your writing stand out.
That's what makes it special.
Finding your voice, it takes time, right?
It does. It's a journey of discovery.
Experimentation, too.
But it's worth it. Because when you find your voice, your writing comes alive.
Yeah, it has that spark.
That authenticity that readers crave.
This is such a good reminder that becoming a better writer, it's a journey, not a destination.
There's always something new to learn.
Always room for growth.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
Okay, before we move on, what's resonating with you the most so far?
I think it's his emphasis on intentionality.
Okay, tell me more.
It's like every choice you make as a writer,
from the words you choose to how you structure your sentences,
it has an impact on the reader.
That's deep, man.
And by being more intentional about those choices,
you create a more powerful story.
And that's something we can all work towards.
It's food for thought.
It is.
Well, I think that's a great place to take a little break.
Yeah, let's pause here and gather our thoughts.
We'll be back soon to dive even deeper.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
You two were referred to me by the Office of Student Conduct. You two assaulted each other. Your actions could result in assault charges. Another incident and you will be expelled from this university. I expect the two of you to behave like responsible adults, not bickering children on a playground. You're going to be spending a lot of time together in a little experiment. Tyler, Ashley is going to help you transform into a civilized person.
No way. Not doing it.
Back to those specific strategies for intentional writing.
Yes, exactly.
No.
I'm all ears.
Well, I think one of the most crucial things
Okay.
is understanding those core elements. Your characters, their motivations, the conflicts they face, and how those conflicts, well, how they evolve.
Throughout the whole story.
Right.
So it's like we're architects
I like that analogy.
planning the structure
Yeah, like blueprints.
before we even lay the first brick.
And just like an architect thinks about the building's purpose,
We have to consider the purpose of our story.
what are we trying to say? What experience are we crafting for the reader?
You keep coming back to this idea of understanding characters.
I think it's foundational, honestly,
More than just names and backstories.
Right.
It's about delving deeper.
into their psychology, their fears, what makes them tick.
Dorian suggests using Maslow's hierarchy of needs
Yeah, that was interesting
as a framework.
for understanding motivation.
So, like, are we saying we can use this hierarchy to figure out what drives their character?
Exactly. Like one character might be motivated by a need for security,
Okay.
while another is driven by a need for recognition.
So they're coming from totally different places.
Different places, different priorities. It makes them feel real.
This is so helpful, but also kind of a lot to keep in mind while
It
writing.
can be, yeah.
Any tips for incorporating this analysis without getting lost in the weeds?
A good practical tip is to create those detailed character profiles.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those, but I never really...
They can be really useful.
Yeah,
Go beyond the basic stuff, you know?
physical appearance, that kind of thing.
Yeah, dive into their psychology. What are they afraid of?
What are they passionate about? What do they crave from their relationships?
Exactly. You're basically creating a psych profile.
So they become more than just names on a page.
They become real people.
I can see how this leads to more nuanced interaction
Oh, absolutely.
between characters,
Because their needs and desires will clash.
which is where the conflict comes in.
Organically, naturally.
He mentioned that nearly every scene should contribute to the conflict somehow.
In some way, yeah. Even subtly.
I'm trying to picture this.
Okay, so imagine you have two characters, both vying for the same promotion.
Classic workplace drama.
Even a simple scene, like them making small talk in the elevator,
Okay, yeah.
could be used to escalate the tension.
How so?
Maybe one makes a passive-aggressive remark.
About the other's project?
Exactly. Or subtly brags about their own accomplishments,
So that underlying tension is always there.
simmering beneath the surface
Adding another layer,
to their interaction.
it makes those seemingly small moments so much more meaningful.
Every interaction, every word choice, it all builds to something bigger.
I'm realizing that I often overlook the potential of those small moments.
It's easy to do when you're focused on the big picture.
But they're opportunities, aren't they?
To foreshadow, reveal character, move the plot forward,
And he's adamant about introducing the main conflict early on.
hook the reader from the very beginning.
No messing around.
No time for fluff.
Why is that so crucial?
You have to capture their attention right away, you know?
Make them care.
Make them invested in the story.
Think about those books you've been hooked on from page 1.
Oh yeah, the ones you can't put down.
What was it about those openings?
That sense of mystery,
The intrigue.
wanting to know what happens next.
Or maybe it was a character that drew you in.
You just had to know more about them.
That's what a strong opening should do.
Make you ask questions, make you invested.
I think I need to rethink how I approach my openings.
I think a lot of us could benefit from that.
I tend to ease into things.
Maybe try being a bit bolder, more direct.
Put that conflict front and center.
Don't be afraid to jump right in.
Okay, I'm willing to try.
And remember, it's not just about the conflict.
Right, you were saying something about tone and atmosphere?
Yeah, the setting can play a huge role.
Dorian's big on using settings strategically.
It should complement the story, not overpower it.
So it's more than just a backdrop?
It can be a character in itself.
That's interesting.
Think about stories set in isolated environments.
Like a submarine.
Exactly.
No.
Or a space station.
The setting itself becomes a source of conflict.
Limited resources, close quarters, that psychological
Well,
pressure.
it really heightens the stakes.
And it doesn't have to be exotic to be effective. Even a suburban home
Okay,
or a small town diner,
right.
they can be brought to life with the right details.
Sensory descriptions, I'm guessing?
Smell, sound, touch, taste, make the reader feel like they're there.
I'm starting to see how much I've been neglecting setting in my own work.
I think a lot of us do, especially at first.
We focus on the plot and characters.
But setting can be so much more.
It can enhance the atmosphere, build tension, even drive the plot.
It's a tool in your writing toolbox.
Use it wisely.
And don't forget about those senses.
Oh, yeah.
Engage them all. What does the air smell like? What can your character hear, feel?
Transport the reader into that world.
Make it real for them.
That's the power of good writing.
It's about creating an immersive experience.
I know we've talked about rewriting, but I still find it kind of daunting.
I get it. It can be overwhelming.
Any tips for making it less scary?
Well, Dorian's advice is to see it as an opportunity.
Not a chore.
Right. A chance to refine, polish, make every word count.
It's about making the story better, not just fixing errors.
And he has a great tip for those early drafts.
I'm listening.
Read your work aloud.
You know, I've heard that before, but
It really works. You catch things you wouldn't notice otherwise.
like awkward phrasing,
Or repetitive words.
sections that don't flow well.
Exactly. Try it. You'll be amazed at what you hear.
But how do you know when to stop rewriting?
Ah, the eternal question.
When is a piece truly finished?
It's a combination of instinct and recognizing diminishing returns.
So knowing when you're just rearranging deck chairs.
Instead of actually improving things,
Trusting your gut, but also being honest with yourself.
and don't be afraid to take a break.
Step away.
Come back with fresh eyes
Sometimes you need that distance.
to see what still needs work.
So much good stuff here, but I know there's more.
Oh yeah, we've just scratched the surface.
What other insights does Dorian offer?
Well, he talks about understanding different types of audiences,
Okay, this is interesting.
how their expectations can shape our approach.
Tell me more.
He points out that some audiences love those familiar tropes.
The comfort food of storytelling.
Exactly. While others crave something new, something innovative.
And different genres have different expectations, right?
Absolutely. Fantasy readers might want elaborate world building.
While literary fiction fans might be more drawn to character studies,
So it's like we need to understand our target audience.
become anthropologists of our readers,
I love that. It's about knowing what they're looking for,
and tailoring our stories accordingly.
but without sacrificing our own voice.
Finding that balance, that sweet spot.
Where you're satisfying the audience, but also being true to yourself.
That's where the magic happens.
That's where the sparks fly.
It seems like a delicate dance,
It is. It takes practice.
but when you nail it, it's gotta be amazing.
Oh yeah, that's what makes it all worthwhile.
Dorian keeps reminding us that even professionals are always learning.
Right. He stresses that
It
point.
makes the whole thing feel less intimidating.
We're all in this together, constantly evolving.
And he talks about the importance of feedback,
Feedback is crucial, yeah. Whether it's from beta readers
or critique partners.
or even just trusted friends and family.
It's a double-edged sword, though.
How so?
Feedback can be helpful,
Of course.
but also discouraging if it's not constructive.
That's true. Not all feedback is created equal.
So how do we navigate that process effectively?
Well, Dorian suggests being clear about what kind of feedback you want.
Okay, so tell your readers what you're looking for.
Are you looking for big picture stuff? Plot, character,
Or more nitty-gritty details.
like grammar, sentence structure.
And the focus.
And remember, it's your story.
So ultimately, you make the decision.
Trust your gut, even if it goes against the grain.
I love that message. It's empowering.
It puts the power back in the writer's hands.
I've learned so much already.
This has been a great conversation.
So much insight into the craft of writing.
What's resonating with you the most?
What's sticking with you?
Probably his emphasis on finding your unique voice
That thing that sets your writing apart.
that makes it special.
It makes you think, how do we cultivate that?
How do we discover that unique something?
That's the million-dollar question.
Maybe we'll uncover some answers in the next part of our deep dive.
I'm ready for more. Let's take a moment to reflect, though.
Okay.
We've talked about character, conflict, setting, rewriting.
It's a lot to process.
What are your key takeaways so far?
I think the biggest one for me is that writing is a craft.
Not just a talent.
It's something we can learn, we can improve,
Through practice, through dedication,
even if you're not a natural storyteller.
you can still achieve amazing things.
By studying the techniques, putting in the work,
It takes the pressure off of it.
knowing that anyone can become a good writer.
And it's a journey, not a destination.
With twists and turns, ups and downs.
Always room for growth.
Embracing the process, that's key.
This is so inspiring, honestly.
It makes you want to keep writing.
Keep learning, keep pushing yourself.
I think we're ready for the final part of our deep dive.
Let's do it. We've got more ground to cover, more insights to uncover. We've talked about crafting the story, But what about getting it out there?
The age-old question.
Finding an audience, that feels like a whole other challenge.
It is, but Dorian offers some really good advice on that.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He emphasizes that it's not just about getting published.
Or landing a movie deal.
Right, it's about connecting with the right readers.
Finding your tribe, so to speak.
Exactly. The people who will genuinely appreciate your work.
But how do you even find those people?
Well, he says, start by understanding your target audience.
Makes sense, but how do you do that?
Think about who you're writing for, what are they interested in.
What kind of books do they read? What movies do they watch?
Exactly. Once you have that picture in mind.
You can tailor your approach.
So it's not about just shouting into the void.
Be more strategic.
Target those specific groups who are most likely to connect.
Okay, that makes sense.
He's also big on building a platform.
A platform? Like what kind of platform?
Social media, a blog, even an email list.
It's about creating a space where you can interact with readers.
Share your work, build a community.
That sounds like a lot of work, though.
It is. There's no denying that.
Almost like a second job on top of writing.
And Dorian acknowledges that. He says it's essential these days.
To be a professional, you need that platform.
Publishers, agents, they're looking for writers with an audience.
So it's not just about the writing itself anymore.
The industry's changing, it's evolving.
We have to evolve with it.
And Dorian's perspective is embrace these changes.
See them as opportunity.
The internet gives writers more control than ever before.
You can be your own publisher, your own publicist.
But where do you even start with all of this?
It's a bit overwhelming, honestly.
Well, he gives some practical tips. Start with social media.
Where your audience hangs out.
Right. Focus your efforts there. Create valuable content.
Not just self-promotion all the time.
No, give people a reason to follow you, to engage with your work.
Establish yourself as an expert.
Or at least as someone who's passionate and knowledgeable.
I think I need to rethink my social media strategy.
I think we all do from time to time.
I just post links and hope for the best.
Try being more intentional, create conversations.
Build those relationships.
It's a marathon, not a sprint.
This has been so insightful. I'm seeing the business side of things now.
It's an important part of the equation.
So, what resonated with you the most from all this?
Honestly, his emphasis on embracing the journey.
All the ups and downs that come with being a writer.
He says it's rarely a straight path to success.
There will be stumbles along the way.
What matters is that we keep learning, keep writing.
It takes the pressure off, doesn't it?
It reminds you that it's okay to make mistakes.
We're all human.
Experiment, try new things. That's how you grow.
He also talks about celebrating those small victories. Finishing a draft, getting good feedback, even just making time to write.
Those little wins keep you going.
It's so easy to get caught up in the big picture.
And forget to appreciate the progress you're making.
We've covered so much in this deep dive.
From characters to conflict to finding an audience.
My brain is full.
I feel like we've barely scratched the surface, though.
There's always more to learn, always more to explore.
I think that's part of the beauty of it.
As we wrap up, Dorian says, the world needs your stories.
Powerful words.
Don't let fear or self-doubt hold you back.
We all have something unique to offer.
So keep writing, keep creating, keep sharing those voices.
The world is a richer place for it.
And remember, the journey is just as important as the destination.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.